So Sukumar and Allu Arjun's much awaited Pushpa 2 is out in theatres. Pushpa 1 came out in 2021 during the lockdown at a time when theatres were not doing so well and ended up making close to 400 crores. Part 2 now is made on a massive budget of somewhere between 450 to 500 crores. So well, this movie really needs to be good and needs to earn over 900 crores for it to be a hit. Is that going to be possible? Well, let's go ahead and find out. So in Pushpa Part 1, they show that Allu Arjun aka Pushpa is a smuggler of red sandalwood. He starts on the bottom as one of the labourers and moves his way up, eventually making his way into the Konda Reddy gang, one of the biggest smugglers in the area. During his rise, he falls in love with Rashmika Mandana, who plays Srivalli, who is a milk seller. During their engagement, he gets into a tussle with his half-brother, who tells everyone that Pushpa is an illegitimate child. And this strains the family bond and ties. Post this, Pushpa has an insane drive to get bigger and bigger, and he does so by making strategic moves and deals, eventually becoming one of the biggest in the area. Towards the end, they show that Fahad Fazal aka Bhavar Singh Shekhawat comes to town as the new DSP. He vows to change things around and cut Pushpa down to size, and that's where Part 1 ends. In Part 2, they mainly focus on the rivalry between Pushpa and Bhavar Singh Shekhawat, amongst other dynamics contributing to Pushpa's rise. In this version, Pushpa wants to go bigger than just the boundaries of the region and even tries to gain control of key ministers and politicians. So right off the bat, what works is that as a sequel, this movie flows well and for the most part does justice to what Part 1 left it off at. The elements that worked for Part 1 work over here too. There's some great cinematography by Miroslav Kubak-Bosek, who's a Polish cinematographer. Some great BGM by Devi Sri Prasad, though I feel the songs aren't as good as the ones in Part 1. Some songs are good in this, but not as iconic as the ones in Part 1. The action again is very good here, some very unique action choreography and some very well conceptualized action sequences, sure to make the audiences go crazy and whistle. However, there are also times when the action gets too over the top and too unrealistic, but well, for the most part, it does what it's here to do. Invoke the emotion it needs to. Honestly, the movie's intro sequence is pretty cool too, and Pushpa's entry is great, very well shot and conceptualized. The movie's scale here is massive. You can see the 400-500 crores being spent, enormous sets, hordes of juniors and dancers in lavish songs, and tons of vehicles, helicopters and the likes. Now speaking of the acting, starting off with Allu Arjun, just like Part 1, he's pretty epic in this one too. He carries the character so well with some great dialogue delivery and body language and well, some amazing dance moves as expected. In fact, in a few scenes where he cries and breaks down as well, he acts really well. So in all, a complete package from him. I felt Rashmika Mandana acted very well in the movie as well. There's this one sequence after the Kali Ma dance where she goes on a rant and acts really well in it and has great screen presence. Fahad Fazal is brilliant as the antagonist and keeps you engaged throughout. But I really feel they should have given him another name. Bhavar Singh Shekhawat is too Rajasthani. And a person with that name speaking the language without a hint of a Rajasthani accent just seems off. Also, Fahad is not someone you automatically picture when you think of a Rajasthani person or a Bhavar Singh. So giving him a more suited identity for his character would have worked better. Well, apart from that, almost every other actor fits his or role really well and no one really seems out of place. So I felt the movie was great till the first half, but in the second half, after a point, the narrative abruptly shifts from Fahad Fazal and Pushpa going bigger and international to smaller and more personal conflicts. Eventually, even the end not seeming as high scale or badass as it could have been. The end credit scene, however, sets the stage up really well for Part 3, but I felt Part 2 somewhat lost the plot a bit in the second half. Also, some songs really drag the movie. The action sequence after the Kali Ma dance is really stretched out and really pulls down the pace of an otherwise very well paced and gripping movie. The VFX, while good for the most part, does falter in a few places. And also towards the end, the entire family angle is too stretched out, and that again slows down the overall pace of the movie for what otherwise could have been a crazy whistle-worthy climax. And lastly, not fully related to the movie, but the rolling credits. The rolling credits of the movie went by too fast, like at full speed, and I feel that's just not done. You can't read a single name on the screen, and there are hundreds of crew members who have put their hearts and souls into this project, and it's just not fair to them. So on the whole, despite the negatives mentioned, Pushpa 2 makes for a solid sequel with a number of badass sequences. If you liked Part 1, Part 2 is definitely worth the watch. And on the BMB meter, I'm giving the movie 7 on 10. Sequel hai to flower mat samajhna. Fire hai. Let me know what you thought of the movie if you watched it, and also please like and share the video if you liked it. And hey, before you go, please hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more interesting content. Cheers, and I'll see you soon.